Welcome to Upticks. I'm Jake Falcon, the founder of Falcon Wealth Advisors and your host of Upticks. Today is episode 147, Managing Debt. Thank you for joining me back on the show. I hope all of you out there are staying safe and healthy during this horrible pandemic. For today's topic, I wanted to talk about managing debt. For many, many people, they think debt is this horrible four-letter word, right? That belongs with the other horrible four-letter words. But today, I want to talk about how you can actually manage debt and use it rather as a form of leverage in your financial plan. The reality is many of our clients were raised by clients that are not by their clients' parents that were raised during the Great Depression. And the Great Depression, almost if you're alive and have had any type of education, you've studied or heard about how bad the Great Depression was. And what happens is our clients' parents, being raised by that generation, they were taught at very influential young ages not to owe anybody anything. Because what happened was when things got crazy in the Great Depression, people that had loans out, if you lost your job, it was very difficult to be able to pay your bills. And so people that were over leveraged suffered, right? So it's natural then, if you were born in the 40s, 50s, 60s, or raised by people that were around in the 20s, or at least influenced by people, you too probably think as debt as this nasty four-letter word, and that you should owe no one nothing. Now, I have many clients. I'd probably say about a third of the clients that we work with, and this is ballpark, at Falcon Wealth Advisors are debt-free, and more power to them, right? But truly, in my opinion, nobody is really ever debt-free, because you have your electric bill, your phone bill, groceries, right? So you're always paying things off or borrowing or whatever. And so you always have this kind of short-term debt that you're fluctuating. But for today's conversation, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. For today's conversation, about a third of our clients are debt-free, and more power to them. But I would also suggest, though, just because they're debt-free does not necessarily mean that their financial plans are the healthiest, believe it or not. So you could have zero debt, but if you pulled out your nest egg or your 401k to become debt-free and paid all these taxes and maybe even penalties to do it, you might not be left with much as far as net worth. So even though you may own your house and not have any car payments, or no bank loans or student loans or credit cards or anything else, you might have a very low nest egg. So you have less money to live off of. So basically, maybe you're just living off Social Security, or maybe you have a large nest egg, and that's fine too. So my point is, a third of the people, that's great. If you have no debt, I'm suggesting that maybe this episode's still for you, because you may be able to use debt down the road as a form of leverage to help improve your financial plan. And I'll explain that here in a moment. So to get back to the psychology part of it, though, so again, those people feel very confident. I love it. They walk in my office, or we're talking on the phone or via Zoom, say, Jake, I don't know anybody anything. And that's very liberating, very empowering. And again, cheers to them. And I get that completely and wholeheartedly. And it's a good thing. But I don't want, the point of this episode is I don't want you to think you have to be debt-free in order to retire or be financially stable. You don't. You definitely don't have to. And here's how I like to manage debt for both myself personally and my wife, and as far as giving advice to clients. Now, this is one important caveat, though. You have to be a disciplined saver and investor if you want to use debt to your advantage and turn that four-letter word into actually something good, a good four-letter word. So here's how I recommend looking at debt another way. So let's say you don't have any debt, or maybe you do. What I like to look at is each and every one of our financial plans. And again, it's like something crazy, like 98% of our clients have a full financial plan. It also includes a target rate of return in that plan. Now that target return may be 5%, 6%, 7%, 8%, 9%, whatever it is. Okay. But this is what I like to use to make assumptions on if you want to look at paying down debt, right? Or keeping debt or borrowing more. So the idea is, let's just say your target return is 6%. If your target return is 6%, meaning any dollar that we invest, we are projecting and looking to make a 6% average annual rate of return. Some years we'll make more than that. Some years we'll make less than that. But the financial plan is forward looking for an average annual return of 6%. So when we have the conversation with the client about debt, if we can borrow, let's say a mortgage at 2% or 3%, then that, in my opinion, might be a worthwhile debt to take on. Meaning, you want to go borrow money, $300,000 at 3%, and you've got that $300,000 invested, making you 6%. Well, theoretically, you should net the difference, which is around 3% on $300,000 a year. It's not, excuse me, at $300,000 is $9,000 a year. You stand to make by not paying that house off and not cashing in your 401k and paying taxes or whatever else has to go on to be debt free. So $9,000, but you add that up over 30 years, 30-year mortgage is a lot of money, right? And compounding takes over, and that is a form of leveraging debt. So not all debt is bad. And in my opinion, debt is not a four-letter word. Now, I know for some people it can weigh heavy and be somewhat of a burden on you. But if you can separate it and you can understand that saying, okay, Jake's not necessarily saying that I don't have the money to pay off this mortgage. I'm just using my money over here so that I can have more of it 20, 30 years from now than if I just cashed in my 401k or cashed in a portion of my 401k to pay off that line of credit or the mortgage or whatever it may be. So but again, this is only works if you're disciplined and you make that mortgage payment. You start falling behind on your mortgage payment, or we're talking about something else and you never really get out from under it, or maybe you're always refinancing and resetting it and you're never paying down the principal. These can be things that actually are bad. Or maybe you take money out of the market at a more accelerated rate. So now you've got this mortgage and then you spend down your nest egg and your money's not making you, right, that extra 3%. So there's all these different scenarios. And again, the takeaway here is, sit down with your financial advisor, with your wealth advisor at Falcon Wealth Advisors, and let's crunch the numbers. And let's have a conversation about not only what does the math need to look like in order for it to make sense, but what does the behavior need to be, right? What do I need to do in order to properly leverage debt in my favor? And that's what we love doing. And we love crunching those numbers at Falcon Wealth Advisors for our clients. Right. But I completely get the psychology of not wanting to owe anybody anything. And I think another piece of that, not only the depression, is that a lot of people that grew up in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, when they went to work, a lot of them received pensions when they retired. And so they didn't have this $1 million, $2, $3, $4, $5 million nest egg that they saved on their own and invested in the stock market on their own, and then hired somebody to help manage on their own. Their company said, hey, you work here for 20 or 30 years. We'll give you $3,000 a month, $4,000 a month, whatever it is for the rest of your life. And you don't have to worry about saving for retirement. And you don't have to worry about income in retirement because we're going to take care of that. Now, those are beautiful things. Those are called defined benefit plans. Again, they're not nearly as popular as they once were. We don't run into them nearly as much as I did 15 years ago. They're still out there. Most Americans are charged with saving their own nest egg. And that's why I think you have to be very careful when paying off your debt, because if you were taught a certain way, well, the economic environment, the corporate environment was far different than it is today. Now people are jumping around, changing jobs. They have 401ks, they have rollovers, Roth IRAs, health savings accounts, all these different vehicles to save and invest in. And so it's more on you, right, the individual, than it used to be, which was on the employer. So again, I think it's okay to have debt as long as your behavior matches with the numbers. And that's what we can do for you at Falcon Wealth Advisors. That's part of our process, is we'll take a look at not only the investments, a target rate of return, but we also want to look at your liabilities and your debt. And we want to make sure that we have a plan for either paying off that debt. If it is high interest, if you got a credit card, more than likely, we're going to recommend you start to tackle that and be aggressive with paying that off. Or if you have low interest debt, we say, okay, look, this is low. You're not in a hurry to pay this off because your money's over here. earning you 6, 7, 8%, whatever it is on average. Okay. So again, more things to think about. If you do have any questions about this, I highly encourage you to reach out to me. I'll put my email here. It's simply Jake@Falcon Wealth Advisors. We can create a financial plan for you. We can look at your investments, get you a target rate of return in order for your financial goals to happen. And then we can talk about that debt and help you make a plan that not only pays off high interest debt, but leverages low interest debt so that ultimately you and your family can hit your financial goals with a greater level of confidence, perhaps, than you had before. If you're not already subscribed to our channel, I'll put a quick plug here. I'm very humbled. We keep getting more subscribers, it feels like, every week. So the best way to make sure you don't miss another episode of Upticks is to be sure to subscribe, whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you so much for subscribing. Also, a quick plug to a couple of my business partners. Corey Bittner's got his own show called In the Money Insight. It's a podcast and on this channel, this YouTube channel, Falcon Wealth Advisors Collective. And then Scott Sturgeon, our other colleagues, got 2 shows. He's got a show called Mental Dividends, which is much like Upticks and In the Money Insight. It's also right here on Falcon Wealth Advisors Collective on YouTube. He's also got his own podcast out there. And then Sports and Money with Josh Briscoe and Scott. They take the world of sports and money, blend them together, and they've got a really fun show out there as well. You can find that here on YouTube, of course, as well, along with your favorite podcast platform. I'm also out there on various social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If we're not already friends, please feel free to send me a friend request. Also, our team, Falcon Wealth Advisors, is on the same 4 platforms. So if you're not following us, please feel free to do that. That's the only way that you're going to make sure that you don't miss our content as we roll it out here. As far as fun topics, oh man, it's much of the same. I think I need to have Corey back on the show, see what he's been up to. So maybe I'll try to ping him and get him back on another episode. As you can see here, it is really, really sunny today in Kansas City. Summer is finally here, so I'm really excited about that. Definitely golf season, Einstein season, yard season. Maybe I'll try to plant some herbs with my wife here coming soon. We've got a little herb garden that we planted last year. It needs badly to be tended to, so we'll probably be looking at doing that soon. So maybe I'll throw some pictures of that once we get that all situated. But like I said, I hope all of you out there are staying safe and healthy. We are scheduling a virtual meeting still at Falcon Wealth Advisors. However, if you are vaccinated and you do want to meet in person, we are going to go ahead and do a soft opening of the office. Again, for vaccinated individuals, if you want to come on down to our office and set up a meeting, I'm happy to do that in person, as long as you and us, of course, feel safe and in a good environment. So thank you again. Hope you all stay safe and healthy, and I look forward to talking with you soon. Have a great week.